So the manual challenges in the close revolve around, I guess, two or three main areas. The first and most important is to make sure that the data that you're working with in finance is complete, reliable, as accurate as possible, and valid, and can be relied upon for the rest of the activities that the finance team have to do going into the close. So the first thing is assurance around the data. That is quite a big effort. It involves reconciliations, it involves analysis, it involves manual checking, typically in most finance teams. And once there is a level of confidence, and once all of the adjustments have been made, and once all of the balances in reconciliations have been agreed, you can then start to move on to some of the core work that finance should be focused on, which is to look at the analysis around that data. What is it telling you? Can we release these results to management to use them in subsequent decision making? So the manual activity is really around the checking, the correcting, the adjustment, and then finalizing the production of the reports. The big areas of manual effort are around things like reconciliations, the checks and balances. Maybe in an advanced finance function, there are some manual controls that are in play to make sure things like margin calculations and margins achieved have been achieved and are reflected in the data. So a lot of the detailed effort and the big effort is around doing those reconciliations, checking intercompany balances, doing bank reconciliations, making sure as best you can from a finance perspective that the transactions, the buying and the selling, for example, all of the financial consequences of those items are reflected accurately. The asset register reflects the reality of the assets owned and operated by the business. So that is where the big effort is. There is then a bigger effort, if you like, in actually adjusting for, firstly, any errors or issues that are found, reclassifying balances, generating accruals and provisions that are required to make sure the costs fall into the right accounting periods, which then results in a huge number of manual journal entries, typically in most finance businesses. So that's where the big effort is around this. There are also quite significant efforts around orchestration and management of the close as well. So we often see huge checklists for closing the books that are held in spreadsheets. And part of the problem there is that you're having to manage and orchestrate a disparate team of people who are doing very similar things, but maybe parts of processes. So it's how do you manage an end-to-end process when you've got a team onshore that are doing the first piece of it, it's going to a shared service center for the second piece, and then coming back to the onshore team to do the reporting and the eyeballing of the data. So a huge amount of effort around the orchestration and management as well, because ultimately the sequence that you do things in finance matters. If you do things out of sequence, there is a huge risk that you're going to create errors, there's going to be omissions, and some of the data that's generated in reports that management see is going to be incorrect. So the touchless close is all about taking the significant manual effort that's associated with month end and in record to report in general in finance. It's taking all of those manual activities and effort and then applying technology to automate those tasks. So a simple example, if you are doing a reconciliation, it's making sure that you can check balances, check transactions in an automated way rather than having to maybe download things to a spreadsheet or out to an external system to run a reconciliation process manually and then to feed any adjustments back from that. So that is an example of how you might want to take out manual effort from a process. Another example might be journal entries. Quite often, people in finance do a calculation, create a journal in a spreadsheet, and they pass that on to another team, maybe part of a shared services team, to then post that entry to the finance system. And 9 times out of 10, it will be the correct postings that are made. There may be errors in the actual calculation itself or the actual posting, but it's not until the posting is made and the originator of that activity sees the results that they can then confirm. So again, yet more activity, manual activity around the close created by adjustments. In my experience, having looked at a number of different finance teams across various vertical markets, industry sectors, large and small businesses as well, I don't think there's any process that can't be automated, i.e. Technology used to eliminate manual effort. What I would say is that there is always going to be a level of oversight, a level of checking that's required, but then you're looking at very specific people to perform that sort of task. You're not looking at armies of people to record transactions. So the art of the possible really is that anything can be automated, including the calculation and posting of accruals and provisions. Things like reclassifications, reconciliations, general journal adjustments can all be made in an automated way by technology and don't need to be done by humans. And I think a lot of that is a confidence play, because there are businesses that really don't have confidence in technology as such, and in some cases with good reason, because maybe their ERP or finance system hasn't been as resilient or as robust as they would expect it to be. So there is quite often a level of skepticism in what technology can achieve. But in my experience, if you start to identify and explain how the technology takes manual tasks and then converts them to an automated process end to end, people very quickly get the picture because they can see what can be achieved.